9 months into my pregnancy, my husband's first love, Evelyn, moved into our house under some pretext. Every time she saw me, she would clutch her chest, feigning heartache. My husband Alexander was convinced that I was deliberately flaunting my pregnancy to upset Evelyn. Evelyn is too weak to bear children. You're constantly showing off your baby bump in front of her to provoke her. Looks like you won't learn your lesson unless I teach you one. He ordered his men to lock me in the long-abandoned attic and forbade anyone from bringing me food. I struggled and begged, telling him that the ultrasound showed the twins were too large, and the doctor had advised me to be admitted to the hospital today for delivery. But he laughed as if he had heard a joke, his voice as cold as ice shards. Your due date isn't for another 3 days. Stop playing the victim. Go to the attic and reflect on your actions. This is what you get for upsetting Evelyn. My contractions were so painful that I broke my nails clawing at the door, but no one came to open it. My agonizing screams echoed in the attic for a long time, until I was lying in a pool of blood, with the unformed fetuses still stuck in the bloody hole between my legs. 3 days later, Alexander, sipping a bowl of rice porridge that didn't suit his taste, said, "Tell Lily to come out and make me a bowl of porridge," then apologized to Evelyn. If her attitude is sincere, send her to the hospital to give birth. No one dared to respond, because the blood from the attic had already spread to the second step of the stairs. Why isn't that jealous woman Lily wailing anymore? Sir, could something have happened to Mrs. Frost? Last night her screams were heart-wrenching. She sounded like she was in terrible pain. Alexander took a sip of porridge, snorting dismissively. No one knows Lily better than I do. She's just putting on an act. This time I must teach her a lesson so she won't dare to provoke Evelyn again. The butler glanced towards the attic, hesitating before speaking. But Mrs. Frost is carrying twins, and the doctor said she needed to be admitted to the hospital early. Alexander paused mid-sip, his expression softening slightly. Is that so? He stirred his porridge for a while, a hint of doubt flashing in his eyes. Fine. Tell Lily to come out and make me a bowl of porridge, then get over here and apologize to Evelyn. Today is her due date. If her apology is sincere, we'll send her to the hospital. Not to mention how I had torn myself apart down there trying to give birth to the children. When I pulled out the first child, it was already not breathing. Blood gushed from the gaping wound between my legs, and the second child became stuck in the torn, bloody hole. With blood matting my hair, I held the blood-covered fetus, my eyes wide open as I stopped breathing. I wonder how Alexander will react when he sees this scene. But for now, he was only focused on holding Evelyn close. His voice was full of guilt and self-reproach. It's my fault. I shouldn't have let the pregnant Lily appear in front of you and make you sad. I swear, this is the last time that woman will carry a child for me. You won't see any more pregnant women in this house in the future. You don't know. Lily even lied to me to try to soften my heart, saying she was afraid the babies were too big and might cause a difficult delivery, and that the doctor recommended immediate hospitalization. She can survive in the wilderness for 3 days and nights without food, yet she tells me she's afraid of giving birth. My heart ached, almost unable to breathe. A pregnant woman's constitution is far different from a normal person's, let alone the fact that from the day I became pregnant with twins, the discomforts of pregnancy had nearly exhausted me. Several times, due to my poor pregnancy constitution, I had even been hospitalized to prevent miscarriage. When I was first locked in the attic, I begged and pleaded with him to let me out, because if I was really locked up for 3 days, it would surely result in 3 deaths. But Alexander, right in front of me, loudly instructed the butler, "Go. Throw the key into a stinking river, and don't let anyone secretly open the door for Lily." After 3 days, I want her to kneel and apologize to Evelyn. To survive, I tore down the wall paintings, piercing my hands with blood, and to pry open the attic window, my nails were forcibly broken off. Enduring the excruciating pain, I mustered my strength to climb out of the window onto the rain gutter outside, gripping the tiles tightly with my hands, inching along bit by bit, trying to jump to another room to escape. But then, in the garden below, Alexander was forcefully holding Evelyn in a deep embrace, kissing her passionately. The two were kissing so recklessly, it looked like things were about to get out of hand. Evelyn suddenly pushed Alexander away, looked up towards the attic, and let out a piercing scream. Alexander raised his head, saw me desperately trying to escape, and flew into a rage. He was convinced that I had deliberately appeared in front of Evelyn again. He ordered someone to bring a crane, and personally operated it, using the shovel to press against my belly, forcibly ramming me back into the attic. Intense pain shot through my abdomen, and blood seemed to flow endlessly from between my legs. In the end, my eyes were wide open, holding the blood-covered children in my arms, and that's how I stopped breathing. Alexander brought the cup of warm milk to Evelyn's lips. "I've already sent someone to bring Lily over to apologize to you. If she's sincere, we'll send her to the hospital. If not, she can give birth in the attic." Evelyn sipped the milk in small mouthfuls, but still choked a little, coughing with tears in her eyes, looking pitiful and delicate. "Brother Alex, you can't treat Sister Lily like this. Childbirth is very dangerous for women." Alexander sighed, looking at the girl in his arms with doting eyes. "You're just too kind-hearted. That's why you get bullied by women like Lily. Lily is a survival expert. She can survive for 3 days without food or water in the wild. You, on the other hand, little one, are so delicate you choke on a sip of milk." He gently tapped her nose. "And you talk about childbirth being dangerous as if you've given birth before." Evelyn's eyes flashed with panic for a moment, but she quickly lowered her head, her voice tinged with grievance. Only Brother Alex can see through the fragile heart beneath Evelyn's strong exterior. She looked up again, her eyes misty, her lips bitten to a glossy sheen. She hooked her arms around Alexander's neck, deliberately pressing her chest against his heart. Alexander could no longer resist, kissing her with heavy breaths as Evelyn softly murmured. Their lips entwined fiercely, and they began to hungrily demand more from each other's bodies. But at the last moment, Evelyn suddenly pushed away the heavily panting man, We can't. You're a married man now, and Sister Lily is carrying your child. Evelyn doesn't want to be a homewrecker. Alexander's eyes were burning with desire, his voice hoarse. All right, I, Alexander, will never betray Evelyn's true heart. Wait for me a little longer. Only when I'm clean and free will I be worthy of touching someone as pure as you. With that, he placed a lingering kiss on her forehead, as if cherishing a priceless treasure. A flash of triumph gleamed in Evelyn's eyes. Alexander couldn't see it, but I could. At that time, I had no appetite due to my pregnancy, and only the food made by this cook suited my taste. Out of hospitality, I approached her and offered to hire another chef to cook for her, but she slapped me across the face. It doesn't matter if the food tastes good or not. What matters is knowing who the real mistress of the house is. Lily, I just want to tell you, there's only one Mrs. Frost, and that's me. Evelyn. To prove that she would be Mrs. Frost, she curled up in Alexander's arms like a kitten, whimpering and sobbing, crying that she was unfortunate, that she couldn't bear children for him in this lifetime, and seeing me with my pregnant belly every day, inevitably made her feel lost and heartbroken. I've already tried my best to avoid Sister Lily, but I still can't help running into her every day. I should move out. Evelyn can't live in such pain every day. It's making me so unhappy. Alexander lost control of his emotions in an instant, his face turning cold as he rushed over and slapped me to the ground. You know very well that Evelyn gets upset just by seeing pregnant women, yet you still parade around with your big belly in front of her every day. What are you trying to do? Such a vicious woman. You don't deserve to be a mother. Today I'm going to lock you in the attic, let you have a taste of suffering. Several bodyguards grabbed my limbs and threw me into the dust-covered attic. The doctor told me to go to the hospital today for delivery. If I go to the hospital, she won't see me either. I desperately clung to the doorframe, pleading tearfully. Alexander sneered. If you're going to lie, at least get your facts straight. Your due date isn't for another 3 days. He no longer listened to any of my protests and slammed the door shut. My fingers were caught in the door, the sudden piercing pain making me curl up and retract my fingers, unable to say anything more. Alexander looked on with satisfaction, and locked the attic door. And now, as the two of them were still passionately entangled, the butler came running, out of breath and panicked. Madam is gone. Gone? Alexander suddenly raised his head, looking annoyed at having his mood disturbed. The butler wiped the sweat from his forehead, saying fearfully, the attic is full of blood. Madam, he dared not continue. Alexander straightened his rumpled shirt. What blood? Oh, she's probably just spotting. Is she going into labor? Send her to the hospital. The butler swallowed hard and forced himself to continue. Madam, she's not breathing. There was a hint of panic in Alexander's voice, but just as I tried to listen more closely, his tone became harsh again. Acting. She's still acting. I want to see how long she can keep this up. She survived in much harsher conditions in the wilderness. She can hold her breath underwater for over 10 minutes. She's just trying to fool you all because you don't have any medical knowledge. She's holding her breath to scare you. Call my private doctor. I want to expose her tricks in person. The butler's eyes widened. Mr. Frost, Madam's children are. Who do you listen to? Alexander impatiently interrupted him. Am I the one paying your salary, or is that woman? Yes, I'll go call the doctor right away. The butler sighed helplessly before leaving. Evelyn softly pressed herself against Alexander. Brother Alex, don't be angry. Anger is bad for your health. That woman Lily is just good at winning people over. It's only been a few years, and she's already acting like she runs this house. Alexander's words were like a slap, waking me from my delusions. In just 3 short years, he had already forgotten his promises from the past. On our wedding day, Alexander had looked at me with eyes full of love and said, this is your home now, and from now on, you'll be the only mistress of this house. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. Just moments ago, I had foolishly imagined that if Alexander knew I had died from complications during childbirth, he might feel a bit of regret and guilt. How ridiculous I am now, and how stupid I was then. I actually believed Alexander when he said he would love me forever. Back then, Alexander and Evelyn were childhood sweethearts in an arranged marriage. Evelyn went abroad when she realized she couldn't conceive a child. I met Alexander while working as a safari leader. The 3rd year of our marriage, I became pregnant with twins. That's when Evelyn came back and said she only wanted to be with Alexander. She then moved into our house, sparking a series of conflicts that ended with me being locked in the attic. Alexander began staying out all night, his white shirt stained with indelible red lipstick marks. I decisively brought up divorce, but Alexander said the children in my womb were the heirs to the Frost group, and he wouldn't let me go. He also said Evelyn was sick and needed someone to take care of her, so he brought her to live in our home. And because Evelyn couldn't have children, and couldn't bear to see pregnant women with big bellies, he locked me, who was about to reach my due date, in the abandoned attic. Alexander truly deserves to rot in hell. The doctor arrived quickly. As Alexander's personal friend, Dr. James had always been in charge of Alexander's health management. Alexander followed behind Dr. James with his arms crossed, fuming. Lily, let's see how much longer you can keep up this act.